if you don't mind, can we spend a few minutes talking about God, if that's okay? So I'm just wondering, I too get asked at many lectures my view on God. And my typical answer is that, sure, there could be a God that's behind it all, and what we're doing as physicists, chemists, biologists, working out God's laws. And if that's how it is, I am thrilled to be part of that noble journey. I then add by saying, look, there's no evidence for that. I don't see any reason to believe that. And if what we're doing is just working out the laws of physics or chemistry or biology, and that's all that you need for a universe, I'm thrilled to be part of that journey. So the bottom line is, from a sociological, from a historical viewpoint, religion's very, very interesting, but it's kind of profoundly uninteresting to answer the deep questions, because I feel like all I'm doing is replacing one mysterious set of words framed scientifically with another set of equally mysterious words that are framed non-scientifically. Yeah. Now, I should say, after I say that, I always apologize, because I am all for hedging your bets. I'm not beyond that at all. What do you think of that view?
Does God exist? A question that has echoed through the ages, and today we're tackling it head-on. If there's a God, it undermines the scientific enterprise. A claim made by Richard Dawkins. We start with Michio Kaku, who uses the laws of physics to argue for God's existence, and end with John Lennox, who provides compelling philosophical evidence. This isn't just a debate, it's a journey through science and faith, where each step challenges our understanding of the universe. Are you ready to explore the ultimate question with an open mind? Join us as we seek answers that might just change the way you think about everything.
Well, I think that the sort of Newtonian, Newton thought that he was working out God's laws, and he was demonstrating the glory of God's mind when he worked out the laws of mechanics and so on. I'm not so at ease with that as you seem to be, because it does seem to me that if there is a supernatural, superhuman intelligence that worked it all out, in a way that undermines the entire scientific enterprise, because we are, maybe an evolutionary biologist feels this more strongly, the whole enterprise of evolutionary biology is to explain how you get prodigious complexity and design from virtually nothing. I mean, we hand over to physicists when we can go beyond the virtually nothing to the absolutely nothing. But if you start from quite an advanced level, bacteria, and work up to mammals and humans, we have a working theory which we know is true, which explains how you can go from great simplicity to prodigious complexity, and finally to the sort of complexity which is capable of designing things, of creating things, of working out how to do things. Well, if you are suddenly going to insert a designing machine, a creator, an intelligence at the root of the universe, you've just undermined your entire enterprise, because your entire enterprise has been to explain how you get to something complicated enough to do design.
But even if that being just set in place the laws and then stood back?
Even that, even the deistic God who sets the laws in place and withdraws, if the implication is that those laws were cunningly designed, cunningly crafted, as many people think they were, so that atoms should come into existence, so that chemistry should come into existence, so that stars should come into existence, so that nuclear reactions in stars could produce the elements, so that they'd explode and we'd get a suitable chemistry to make life, and then the origin of life and so on. If the deistic God thought all that through and set up the laws of physics, then he would have to be damn clever. He would have to be the physicist to end all physicists. I don't care if he then withdraws. He needs an explanation in his own right. And it seems to me that the noble scientific enterprise is to start from as near nothing as you can get.
Yeah.
From a Christian standpoint, we believe that God is not just a set of laws or principles, but a personal and loving creator who actively engages with his creation. We believe that God's existence is supported by various forms of evidence, such as the complexity and order found in the universe, the existence of moral values, and personal experiences of encountering the divine. While science helps us understand the natural laws that govern the universe, it does not provide a complete explanation for the existence of God or the spiritual aspects of life. Religion offers a framework for exploring the deeper questions of existence, purpose, and morality, which science alone may not fully address. It is important to acknowledge that the exploration of faith and the search for meaning vary from person to person. While some may find religion uninteresting in answering deep questions, others find fulfillment and a sense of purpose in their spiritual journey. Richard Dawkins posits a bold assertion, one that we've highlighted in our video's thumbnail. He contends that the existence of God would fundamentally undermine the scientific enterprise. It's a provocative claim, indeed. Yet, the forthcoming discourse could potentially unravel this assertion. Michio Kaku, a distinguished physicist, steps forward to articulate a counter-narrative, presenting a case for how science itself may substantiate the existence of a higher power. His perspective promises to enrich the conversation with a fusion of scientific insight and philosophical depth.
Stephen Hawking, in his latest book, says God, bah, humbug. He can prove the non-existence of God because there was no time for God to create the universe at the instant of the Big Bang. He says time started with the Big Bang, therefore there was no time for God to create a universe, i.e. there's no God. I think there's a flaw in that argument, because Einstein's theory of gravity breaks down at the instant of the Big Bang. That's why he spent 30 years of his life chasing after a higher theory. And what does string theory say? Well, Einstein says the universe is a bubble. We live on the skin of the bubble, and the bubble's expanding. That's called the Big Bang theory. String theory says there are other bubbles out there. There's a bubble bath of universes, and universes are being formed all the time. Big bangs are happening even as we speak. So we have this bubble bath of universes. Right. So there was something before Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1. There was something before the Big Bang. And we're going to detect gravity waves from the instant of creation with gravity wave detectors in outer space one day. We should find evidence, we should find baby pictures of the instant of the Big Bang, and maybe we'll find evidence of an umbilical cord. An umbilical cord connecting our baby universe to a parent universe.
So our universe is just one bubble in a lot of different, like a foam of bubbles.
That's right.
Okay? We're just one of those bubbles.
That's right. And for me, that's good because, you see, I was raised as a Buddhist, and in Buddhism, there's no such thing as God. There's only nirvana, timelessness. But my parents wanted me to be as American as possible because they were in a concentration camp during World War II. So they sent me to Presbyterian Sunday school, where I learned all about Genesis and all about the parables. So I've had these two conflicting ideas in my head for years, but now we can meld them together into a single theory. Our universe had a Genesis. Our universe had a Big Bang. There was an explosion, but these explosions take place all the time. Universes keep budding off other universes. And what is the universe expanding into? Expanding into another bigger arena, the arena of 11-dimensional hyperspace. Therefore, our bubble is expanding in nirvana. And so here we have a beautiful melding of Buddhism with the Presbyterian religion.
It is important to recognize that Stephen Hawking was a brilliant physicist who made significant contributions to our understanding of the universe. However, it is also essential to remember that his views on the existence of God reflect his personal beliefs and interpretations. Hawking's argument suggests that because time began with the Big Bang, there was no time for God to create the universe. However, this argument assumes that God is subject to the limitations of time and space, which is not necessarily the case. From a Christian standpoint, we believe that God exists outside the confines of time and space. God is eternal and transcendent, not bound by the limitations of the physical universe. Therefore, the concept of time as we understand it may not apply to God's existence. While Hawking's argument raises thought-provoking questions, it is important to remember that the existence of God cannot be definitively proved or disproved by scientific means alone. Belief in God is not solely based on scientific evidence, but also on faith, personal experiences, philosophical reasoning, and historical testimonies. In Christianity, faith does not require empirical proof, but is a response to the revelation of God through Scripture, personal encounters, and the transformative power of God's love in one's life. We've journeyed through the scientific landscape, weighing arguments both challenging and affirming the existence of God. As we draw this video to a close, we turn to John Lennox, who presents an unexpected yet compelling case for the divine. His argument stands out, not for its predictability, but for its profound uniqueness. So, I invite you to lean in and listen intently. It's a conclusion that may just defy your expectations.
Let's look at what do you feel is the strongest argument supporting the existence of God? Well, strong for whom? That's an important question. If somebody's coming to me broken-hearted because they've just lost a relative through illness, there's no point in saying, my dear, just look at the fine-tuning of nature. Now, I mean that seriously. I was asked by an atheist professor of philosophy at Oxford to address his students, who he told me were all atheists like him. And he said, we're going to grill you, but I hope you're going to use your strongest argument. Well, I said, if you know what my strongest argument is going to be, you'd better give it to me. So he said, if I'm ever to become a Christian, the argument that would convince me most is fine-tuning. It's strong for some people. Other people don't care sixpence about it. They're not interested in it. They don't understand its power and its force, which is great. People need all kinds of different arguments. Some need an intellectual argument because they're bothered. There's something they don't understand, and they need facts. For example, somebody's bothered about the existence of Jesus. That's very simply dealt with. All they have to do is read a bit of ancient history. Other people are bothered because they are immersed in various aspects of the problem of evil and pain. And you don't deal with that by discussing Genesis 1. Now, I mean that quite seriously. One of the questions here, which I might as well deal with as we're going through, is what's the hardest argument you face? Well, the answer to that's obvious. It's the problem of evil and pain. That is the hardest question any of us face. And we need to think about it, because if we've nothing to say about it, we're as bad as the atheists. They have, by definition, nothing to say. Because atheism is a hopeless philosophy. By definition, there is no ultimate hope. And that's why the Bible talks about it. At the heart of our Christianity is not a set of physical laws, there's a cross. And that is answering a big question. It's telling us, at the very least, that God didn't remain distant from the problem of suffering, but himself has become part of it. That's a very different kind of answer than arguments from nature or the philosophy of science. So there are all kinds of things. It depends who's asking the question. And we need to be sensitive. You see, sometimes, very often I find, you don't answer the question, you answer the questioner. You try to find out where they're coming from, where they're hurting, what the problem is. I never forget first learning this at Cambridge. In college, at dinner, they used to provoke me, of course, because they liked mocking my Irish Christianity. And one night, a chap, but he was a very big chap as far as I remember, and a Christian had asked me to explain why I believed in the resurrection. I was trying to keep my voice down, but of course, the lower I put my voice, the quieter the table became. And suddenly a student thumped the table, and all the spoons and forks jumped. And he said, that's the most preposterous nonsense I've ever heard. How can you believe that rubbish? So I turned around and said, well, I said, you feel really strongly about this. He said, I do. I said, tell me, what did you make of Paul's evidence when you read it? He said, what? I said, well, I presume you feel strongly because you've got an evidence base. Well, did Paul talk about it? I said, come round for coffee. So half an hour later, he said to me, do you know, my parents shoved this stuff down my throat, and I don't want it. And I said, that's the first honest thing you've said to me tonight. Half an hour later, he became a Christian. And he has served the Lord for the last 50 years. You see, I got to the real issue. His anger was an outburst against his parents. It had nothing to do with intellectual arguments. So I'm trying to help you see that this question has no single argument.
Here are some arguments for the existence of God. One of the strongest arguments is the cosmological argument, which posits that everything in the universe has a cause, and there must be an ultimate cause or first mover that initiated the chain of causation. This first cause is what we understand as God. The intricate design, order, and complexity found in the universe lead us to consider the existence of an intelligent creator. Another argument is the teleological argument, also known as the argument from design. It suggests that the complexity and purposeful arrangement of the natural world, from the intricacy of DNA to the fine-tuning of the physical constants that allow life, point to an intelligent designer. Additionally, the moral argument suggests that the existence of moral values and duties within human beings implies a moral lawgiver. Our universal sense of right and wrong, the desire for justice, and the recognition of objective moral truths all indicate the existence of a transcendent source of morality, whom we identify as God. The argument from personal experience is another compelling aspect. Many individuals, including myself, have had personal encounters, spiritual experiences, and transformative encounters with God that have profoundly influenced their lives. These experiences cannot be easily dismissed or explained away. Ultimately, these arguments are not meant to provide definitive proof, as belief in God often extends beyond logical reasoning. Faith plays a significant role in accepting the existence of God. Christianity teaches that faith is a gift from God, and that through prayer, contemplation, and seeking God's presence, one may find a deep and personal connection with the divine. While these arguments provide a foundation for belief in God, they may not convince everyone. It is important to approach these discussions with an open mind and respect for differing viewpoints. Engaging in respectful dialogue can help foster understanding and mutual growth, regardless of our differing perspectives on matters of faith.